Over the last 4 years, I've made over 40 needle-felted creations, and in this video I'm going to share 10 of my best pieces of advice for a beginner to needle felting. On past videos, I've received some lovely feedback on how helpful beginners have found my felting advice, so I thought I'd share some more. So whether you're just starting or you've been needle felted for a while, this video will help you go from making items like this to making them more like this. Let's get started. A friend of mine had never needle felted before and was given this needle felting Panda Kit, but sadly she struggled with it. Later I'll share some really important advice about kits, but even though the kit included polystyrene shapes in an attempt to make the kit easier for beginners, the design of the Panda has some very tricky elements to it. For example, it's got very tiny dots for the eyes and thin lines for the mouth, both of which can be difficult to do for a beginner. I think she did a really good job though. When I designed Patch the dog, I made sure he was made up of simple shapes. I used plastic eyes and he doesn't have a mouth, so no fiddly fine lines to felt, and I included clear detailed instructions and felting tips so that he was suitable for an absolute beginner. So in my design for a panda, I'm going to use glass eyes and he also doesn't need a mouth. I've made him sitting down so that he can stay upright easily, whereas this poor panda can't stand at the moment. But we'll see if we can fix that later on, and I'll share some really important advice about kits towards the end. So what about the polystyrene shapes, I hear you ask? Well, often you'll get polystyrene balls in some of the cheaper needle felting kits. Here I'm covering this ball in some white carded wool. The advantage of using polystyrene balls are that they will help to get a nice round shape, and it's generally quicker to coat a polystyrene ball with wool than it is to needle felt one. But there are disadvantages. If you stab them in the same place for a long time, they can start to disintegrate and they get squishy.
What's wrong with squishy? I'm squishy and there's nothing wrong with me.
No, of course not. Anyway, also, polystyrene is not very environmentally friendly. It takes a very long time to decompose, so I avoid using it. In a moment, I'll share a hack that you could use instead of polystyrene, which will definitely save you money, and we'll find out later whether it also saves you time. But first, I want to address one of the most common mistakes that beginners to needle felting make. As you can see, this panda that my friends made looks quite fuzzy, and its arms are very soft. This is because it's not been felted enough. To get a nice smooth finish and more defined shapes, you need to stab it much more than this. For example, here you can see I'm felting some core-carded wool to make the body of the panda. This actually took around 12 minutes of continuous stabbing to get the body firm enough and the right shape. And it's only 12 minutes because I decided to make my panda small. The larger the object, the longer it will take. So if you're coating polystyrene, it shouldn't look fuzzy like this, but smoother and well attached like this. Or if you're felting an object completely from wool, it needs to be fairly firm like this is when you squeeze it. This is so that when you attach the arms or details, it doesn't change the shape, but also it will look less fuzzy. Please don't forget to click the like button if you're enjoying this content. By doing this, you'll help other needle felters find this video. But to see if I could save you time, while making this panda, I thought I'd test out a hack I'd recently heard about. So it's time for what I like to call needle felting nerd time.
Needle felting nerd time.
Oh no, you're back. I thought you might have forgotten about that.
Oh no, you're stuck with us.
So I've timed myself rolling up some ordinary wool twine into a ball. Well, actually more of an oval shape, which I'm going to use as the core for the panda's head. At first I found this quite fiddly and kept dropping it, so I had to keep stabbing the yarn to attach it so that it didn't unravel. This is a smaller shape than the body, which as I said took me about 12 minutes to felt, so hopefully it's quicker than that. We'll find out in a moment. This hack does save you some money because you can use cheap yarn that you can buy from a charity shop or you might have hanging around. It doesn't have to be exactly the right colour as we're going to cover it with a layer of wool anyway. Ah yes, so as you can see it took me quite a while, over 30 minutes. I'm not sure if this was because I was trying to wrap it neatly to get a smooth shape, but I'm afraid I didn't find it saved me any time. However, once I'd coated the head with bright white wool, it did feel very firm, even more firm than the body I'd felted. To get it this firm by felting it would have taken quite some time, perhaps nearly as long as it did for me to roll up the ball. So if you have problems with your hands or just want to reduce the amount of stabbing, you might prefer to wind wool yarn instead to give you a nice firm core. Now we're getting to what I like to call the woolly slug stage.
What the heck is that going to be?
A panda like you.
If you say so.
Yes, well, at this stage it might be difficult to believe that what you've felted so far is ever going to look like the animal or object that you're attempting. But don't lose faith. Trust the process. In my experience, your project will at some point resemble some sort of woolly blob or slug, but eventually it will come together and look amazing. One of my favourite things about needle felting is that it's very forgiving, and you can shape it as you go along with this easy technique. Here I'm making the arms for the panda, and I want them to be slightly curved, so that when they're attached they sit to the front and don't stick out to the sides. So after I've rolled up black wool and stabbed it lightly, I'm holding it in a curved shape while stabbing it all over. This will make the wool stay in that shape. You can also use the edge of your mat to help you hold it in a curved shape while stabbing. Or to make a foot on the end of a leg, just hold the foot bent over while you stab around the ankle. This next technique will help you get your arms and legs attached, but also allows room for error, as I'll explain in my next tip. But first, when you're felting arms and legs, I always leave one end completely unfelted. When I'm shaping, I concentrate on the hand or foot area and part way up the leg or arm. This is so that we have lots of unfelted wool to help attach the arm or leg to the body. Everyone makes mistakes. It's difficult to judge how much wool to use to get the right shape. The more you practice, the more you'll get better at these things. But even though I've felted for years, I can still misjudge how much wool to use sometimes. That's partly why I leave the wool unfelted at the end of the arms and legs, so that like here for example, if I can see the leg is going to be too long, I can pull some of the wool away and it will make the legs shorter. Needle felting is so forgiving that even if you've already attached a part to the head, you can still pull it off and start over. So don't be afraid of going wrong. Go for it and then take a step back and check your inspiration or picture regularly to see if it's looking how you want it. Looking at our friend here, you can see he's very fuzzy.
Oh, who's that handsome chap?
This is Pandy.
Oh, hello, Pandy.
Anyway, let's try and get him looking a bit neater. By the way, my friend has given me permission to do this. First off, I'll tidy up the feet and stab the bottom in one direction to create a flat surface so that Pandy can stand up. As you can see, the head is really wobbly, so I've felted it a bit more around the neck to secure it in place before moving on to the arms, which my friend hadn't really stabbed enough. So to make the arms firmer, I stabbed and shaped them slightly by angling my needle in the direction I wanted the wool to go. Then I moved on to making the surface a bit smoother and less fuzzy by angling my needle so that it slanted to the surface and stabbing and dragging it across the surface of the wool. This catches the stray strands and stabs them down into the head.
Hey, what have you done to him? Oh, Pandy.
Anyway, if you've received a kit or are thinking about buying one, then you might want to consider some of these advantages and disadvantages to buying a needle felting kit. One of the main advantages is that you have everything you need to get started, which is really helpful when you're just starting out in the craft. Most kits provide a mat, some needles and wool. And if it's a good kit, like one from Felts by Philippa, for example, it will also have detailed instructions and give you a really good introduction to needle felting. However, in some needle felting kits, the quality of the needles can vary from kit to kit. In the cheaper kits, the wool you get may well be tops or roving wool, which comes in long strands. This can be more difficult to use for beginners. You can mush this up to make it a bit easier to use, which will make the strands go in lots of different directions and felt more smoothly, but this takes extra time to do. I used some of the white wool that came in one of these cheap kits for my panda. It was definitely roving wool, but I didn't mush it up before coating the head in it. I liked that it was a nice bright white colour, but it seemed as though it might have had some man-made fibres in it, as it took quite a bit of stabbing to stop it from being fuzzy, whereas in my instructions for making Patch the dog, I suggest you use carded white wool, which felts quickly and is easier to shape. This brings me to the biggest disadvantage I've found with cheaper needle felting kits, and that's the instructions. Often they have tiny pictures that don't really show you much, and verbal instructions that aren't very helpful, unlike my dog instructions, which contains lots of large photos and detailed directions which really explain how you can get great results. I'll put a link in the description below. So there's one more thing that's really helpful and will help your needle felted items look so much better, and that's knowing how to get two legs the same size. And in this video I don't just show you how to do that, I reveal 10 things I wish I knew when I started needle felting, which will make your items look amazing. Thanks for watching.